but I'm stoked to dive into this with you guys. Basically, this is like the foundational work that I work on with all of my clients and that changed my life. And so I'm excited to dive into the nitty gritties of hormone balance with you guys. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me know if at any point you guys can't hear me or anything is going on with the audio. You can't see the slides or anything like that. But we'll go ahead and dive in. Um, I'm super excited to share this with you guys. The Take Charge of Your Hormones Masterclass. Again, this is what I do with all my clients to help balance their hormones, what I went through with my own healing journey. And so I'm excited to dive in and share the foundations as to what balancing your hormones even means, what it looks like, what it isn't, and all the nitty gritties inside. So let's dive in. Oh, let me make sure that. Okay. Cool. I hope you guys can see this. Okay, so who is this training for? This training is for you if you are tired and you've been struggling with painful, heavy, irregular cycles for a long time and you feel like your hormones just affect your entire month basically. Like maybe you have quote unquote hell week for half the month and you struggle with a lot of PMS and low energy and mid-afternoon energy crashes and you feel like you get bloated and you don't feel good after meals. And then all of a sudden you're just crying for no reason, right? Like all of these little symptoms that add up to really just not feeling like yourself and just really knowing that there is a deeper reason as to what is going on here. Oh, hold on. I think there's some more people that I want to let in really quick. Okay. I hope everyone's okay, cool. I can't see the chat for some reason, but let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll check the chat afterwards. If you have questions throughout this, just put them in the chat and I'll go over them afterwards. But yeah, so this training is for you if you've been struggling with your hormones for a long time and you dread your periods, you're the second half of your cycle, you feel like a different person and you just don't know what to do about it anymore. Maybe you've tried diet after diet and you've tried adding in a bunch of supplements and nothing seems to make a difference in the long run. So, we're going to get into the root cause of why your hormones are really struggling in the first place and what to do about it. And not by just jumping on another diet, but really creating like those lifestyle pieces that really make a difference um, in setting up so that you can have pain-free and easy periods for the rest of your life. Sorry, I'm just letting some people in as they jump on. So um, let's get into it a little more. Okay, so if you're ready to learn more about how to support your hormones naturally, then this is exactly what we're going to go over today. We're going to cover what is considered common but not normal symptoms and that are really signs of a deeper hormonal imbalance. So, we're going to basically break the norm of what's normal and what's not, getting to that root cause of why your hormones are really struggling in the first place and what to do about it. And then how to actually know if you have a hormonal balance. Like, are your hormones really the problem? We're going to dive into that. And then setting the nutrition foundations for hormone healing. So let's get into it. Okay, so real quick, I'm Becca. I work with women and help them heal their hormones naturally for pain-free and easy cycles. And this all started with my own journey. So I grew up not really feeling very good. I always had painful periods. I'd really like I would always end up in the nurse's office at school. My periods were unbearable. Um, level 10 cramps. My period was just the like worst time of the month for me. And I just didn't know what to do about it. And my friends were on birth control. And so I thought that that would be the answer. Turns out that it did help at the time, right? It does take away those symptoms, but it's just band aiding what is really going on underneath. And so what I didn't realize is at the time I felt better, but those imbalances were still there underneath and the problem didn't actually go away. So when I ripped off that band aid 4 years later, all hell broke loose, basically. I didn't get my period back for 3 years. And when I finally did get it back, it was extremely painful. I tried multiple different diets. I saw doctors, I saw naturopaths, and no one knew what was wrong with me. And so basically, I was told that my labs were normal. This was just part of being a woman. And I didn't know what to do at this point because everyone just told me to eat healthy, work out, and if you get cramps, that's just part of being a woman. But I knew I knew there was a deeper cause as to going on. I knew like it wasn't normal to always feel exhausted all of the time. And then getting all these mood swings and hormonal acne, bloating, having your hair fall out, and then when your period comes to have to lay on the couch with a heating pad for multiple days at a time, and that's just not normal. So I knew there was something different that I was missing. And then I finally hit this like aha moment where everything changed for me. So I was listening to a podcast, and this basically turned my world upside down in a good way. I knew deep down that there had to be a better way than what my doctors were telling me, but I didn't know that this podcast was going to change my life. So I was listening to this podcast, and they were talking about the work of Dr. Ray Peat, who's a biologist, and how he emphasizes that when our metabolism starts to slow down, it creates imbalances throughout the body, and your body stops prioritizing hormone balance because the systems have started to slow down. And so your body stops putting energy towards things like your hormones. And everything just started to click. Everything that they were talking about was exactly me, all the symptoms I was experiencing, and basically my life story that I was trying to figure out was being explained on this podcast. So I decided to dig deeper. And I read a bunch of research by Dr. Ray Peat and a bunch of other endocrinologists and biologists. And I started to look into how your metabolism affects your hormone balance. And again, everything started to click. And this was the aha moment I needed to change my life and start to change the lives of women who I work with who feel like they're doing all the right things, but they're not getting anywhere with their hormones. So some symptoms that are common but not normal. We normalize a lot of these hormonal imbalances, but these are really signs of a deeper issue. And it's communication from your body, and the way that your body is telling you that it needs help is through symptoms, right? When we are struggling for energy on a deeper level and that metabolism starts to slow down, then we end up with painful periods, irregular cycles, heavy bleeding, clots, mood swings, feeling more anxious and overwhelmed all the time, feeling exhausted. Digestion starts to slow down. We get bloating and constipation. We get hormonal acne. It's hard for us to lose weight. We can't sleep through the night. All of these things start to happen because your body is struggling for energy on a deeper level. And this is the body starting to cut corners, right? It's not prioritizing hormones anymore. And so instead of just saying this is normal, we have to ask why. Why isn't our body putting energy towards digestion, towards hormone balance, towards having easy cycles every month? And so like these symptoms are normalized in our society. They're just blamed as like, oh, it's just like our hormones. It's just part of being a woman. But in reality, these are not normal. Just because they're common does not make them normal. So let's talk about why a sluggish metabolism will lead to imbalanced hormones. I know I just kind of threw out the word metabolism a little bit. So let's kind of talk about what's really happening there. So how your metabolism is connected to your hormones, this is the domino effect that happens. So first off, it starts with your thyroid. Your thyroid regulates your metabolism. So when your thyroid starts to slow down, then it's going to first start to slow down digestion. And that means that your body is in this place where it's starting to conserve energy, right? And so when it's conserving energy, it's going to pull energy away from things that aren't essential. And digestion, it's nice. Hormones, they're nice, but they're not essential. And so when digestion starts to slow down, that's going to start to lead to things like bloating, constipation, gut inflammation, and then that creates a very nice environment for bacteria to start to grow. And that's where we start to get things like leaky gut or SIBO or candida because food is sitting in our intestine for too long and starting to create a bacteria overgrowth, basically. And so when digestion slows down, that is going to start to overburden the liver. Okay, so your liver is basically what detoxes excess estrogen from the body. And so when the metabolism starts to slow down and digestion is slow, then the liver starts to get overburdened. Oh, hold on, I gotta let someone in that just jumped in. Okay. When digestion starts to slow down, the liver gets overburdened. And when the liver gets overburdened, it's not detoxing excess estrogen properly. And that's when it starts to lead to more estrogen dominant symptoms. When we're not getting rid of that excess estrogen, which again, we get rid of estrogen by detoxing it from the liver, and then it comes out in our bowels, right? Like we eliminate. But if that process is slow, then estrogen is getting reabsorbed back into the tissues. And so that is why sometimes when you get your labs done at your doctor and your labs come back normal, right? Everything looks fine. But what that's not measuring, it's what's going on in the tissues. And so when the liver is sluggish, then that estrogen is going to end up getting reabsorbed back into your tissues and create more estrogen dominant symptoms. And higher levels of estrogen are going to lower progesterone levels. And we'll talk a little bit about what this looks like, but that's like the domino effect. That's the trickle down. Thyroid starts to slow down the metabolism to conserve energy. And this is going to happen when your body is not getting enough nutrients and enough energy to actually put energy towards these different systems in the body. So, and we'll talk about what that looks like and how to support your metabolism at the end. But this is the domino effect. Thyroid metabolism slows down. That slows down digestion. And then the liver gets overburdened, and that leads to more estrogen dominant symptoms. Okay. And that's where we get these things like PMS symptoms and painful periods and feeling more anxious and overwhelmed and having low energy and just feeling like you don't tolerate stress really well and just the littlest things are irritating and overwhelming. That is going to happen when we have more estrogen dominance. Okay, so that's kind of how the metabolism ends up affecting our hormones. And that is why your hormones are not actually the root cause of these symptoms. We have to go a layer deeper. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the hormone metabolism connection a little bit deeper, because I want you to understand how our hormones actually become imbalanced, basically. And that's kind of the word that gets thrown around is imbalance. But what does that actually mean? So what that means is this is basically a little bit of a chart that shows you what's going on throughout the entire month. Okay. So every single day, our hormones are doing something different. And so there's never one point in time where your hormones are balancing the exact same way. But what we want is we want this, we want the balance throughout the month to be in balance. I don't know. I can't think of another word right now to describe it. But basically, On the first day of your period, that is day one of your cycle. Day one is the first day you get your period. And then that is when your hormones are at their lowest point. As your period starts to end, then estrogen is going to start to rise. And estrogen is like a very building, energizing hormone. And that's where you're probably going to start to get a little bit more energy back. You might feel more social. You might want to plan more activities to do. And that's going to happen up until ovulation. And that typically happens around day 14 or so. And so everyone ovulates at a little bit different time throughout the month, but typically around day 14, you're going to have that ovulation point. And that's basically like the midpoint between your estrogen being the dominant hormone and then progesterone starting to take over. So at ovulation, estrogen is going to drop and progesterone is going to take over. Okay, and as progesterone starts to rise, progesterone is actually a very calming, anti-anxiety, anti-stress, anti-aging hormone. And so we actually, in our luteal phase, which is the 2 weeks leading up to our period, should feel really relaxed and really good during this time. But the problem is when we have more of that estrogen dominance, then that is going to lower progesterone levels. And that is going to lower our calming anti-anxiety hormone and create more chaos. And so that is why the 2 weeks before your period, you can feel more anxious and overwhelmed and irritated, and like everything just pisses you off. And you just get these like mood swings and you're hangry. That is because of that imbalance between estrogen and progesterone there. So I hope that explains the metabolism hormone connection there. So again, if your body is taking energy away from things like hormones, that's where it's going to lower progesterone levels because of that more estrogen dominant symptoms that do come up. Okay. So let's talk about what leads to a slow metabolism. Like, how do we actually get there? So first thing is we're not eating enough. We're under eating, either intentionally or on purpose. If you feel like you are always trying to skip meals and eat low calories, and whether intentionally or not, when you have less energy coming in, then your body is going to start to slow down its metabolic pace. And when the metabolism starts to slow down, that's when your body goes into that energy conservation mode. Okay, so not eating enough, and specifically, which we go to number 2, not eating enough carbohydrates. So we like carbs are so essential. We need carbs to help with that thyroid function. And remember, your thyroid is what regulates your metabolism. So we need carbs for proper thyroid function, and we need carbs for progesterone. So this is another reason that a lot of women get really like a lot of PMS symptoms in our luteal phase. It's because we're not eating enough, specifically carbohydrates, and your body is starting to lower that progesterone levels, because progesterone is very metabolic, meaning that it actually speeds up your metabolism. So if you're not eating enough and enough carbohydrates and you burn through that energy too quickly, then that's going to spike cortisol levels. So if you're not eating enough, if you're under eating and not getting enough carbs, you're going to be more prone to PMS symptoms in your luteal phase. And then when we get to your actual period, progesterone is what helps calm down the uterine lining. And when we get more painful periods and a lot more cramps, back aches, like fatigue, all of this is a sign that we have more estrogen than progesterone. And that is going to come from a result of under eating, undernourishing, and low carb diets. Okay, so the last one, they all kind of tie into each other a little bit, but is fasting or skipping meals, intentionally or not, whether you're not hungry or whether you're just trying to intermittent fast because you maybe heard somewhere that was healthy and good for your hormones. This is a little bit of a controversial one because a lot of people say that fasting can help with your hormones, but to me, this just makes no sense because going long periods of time without food is really stressful on the body, right? When your energy is on empty, that is when your body is going to start to spike cortisol levels. And so to me, like fasting is always going to do more harm than good. Initially, you might feel really good if digestion is slow, but ultimately in the long run, fasting is going to increase your cortisol levels, which is going to suppress your metabolism and thyroid function and lower progesterone. So ultimately, these three types of diets are things you want to completely avoid for a healthy metabolism. This is going to give you a slow metabolism and lead to hormonal imbalances. Okay, and we'll talk about what to actually do for a healthy metabolism, but first you get the picture of these are the things that you want to avoid, because I know I'll get questions on that. Okay, so before we dive into what to actually do, I want to show you guys a little bit of a case study of a client of mine and how we didn't even start with working on her we didn't start with working on her hormones. We actually started with working on her metabolism, and as a result of that, her hormones started to balance out. So her hormones were not the first thing we focused on at all. But what we did was, so Sally came to me and she was experiencing a lot of hormonal acne. She had really bad anxiety. She had gut issues, really painful periods, and she actually did have a thyroid disorder. And so we knew that her metabolism was struggling. And ultimately, in terms of also like lifestyle stuff, is she just felt really, really overwhelmed always. She couldn't handle stress very well. She was always worried about food and her body, and really just like she felt like she also had to rely on birth control to manage her symptoms. She didn't know how to use nutrition and how to support her metabolism for pain-free and easy cycles. So what we did was, so what we did was, again, first we did not start with her hormones because we knew that her metabolism had slowed down at that time. So that was the first thing we looked at, was her metabolism and what she was currently doing with her nutrition, because nutrition goes hand in hand with hormones. As we kind of talked about earlier, what you give your body and what the energy and the resources you give it, that is what it has to work with. And so if you're cutting corners and you're under eating, you're not eating regular meals, you have a lot of stress going on, then your body's gonna start to cut those corners. And things like digestion and hormones and a good metabolism are nice, but they're not essential. So they're gonna go to the back burner. Your body's always on your team, so it's just trying to keep you alive. But with Sally here, she was burning through more resources than she was putting in. She was basically like in debt in the energy tank at this point. So what we did was we saw what she was currently doing. So we had a good idea of where she was at. And then we very slowly started to make changes to help support her metabolism. We made sure she was eating breakfast every morning. We made sure she was getting enough protein and having some easy grab and go snacks throughout the day. And we took a very slow and realistic approach. So we didn't eliminate any foods, or we didn't put her on a restrictive diet. But what we did is we created a lifestyle that she could actually do on a regular basis. Okay, so, and then we started working on specific nutrition to help with that estrogen detoxification piece to help support the liver so that her body wasn't reabsorbing that excess estrogen, and her estrogen and progesterone could start to balance out throughout the month. Okay, so once we did that, she started to notice changes. So after about 4 weeks, she had way less period pain. She was on vacation. I think she was in Vegas, and she didn't feel like she needed to lay in bed all day, which previously, she was bedridden on her period with a heating pad, without a doubt. Her energy started to improve. She didn't feel like she needed a cup of coffee to wake her up in the morning. She wasn't craving as many sweets, and she definitely was not feeling as bloated all the time after 4 weeks. After 8 weeks, her digestion issues were completely gone for the first time in her life. She was no longer running to the bathroom after meals, no bloating after eating. She would go out with her friends and she just didn't have to think about food or her body. She could actually enjoy the moment and be present with her friends. She wasn't breaking out before her cycle as much, and her period came and it was a lot lighter. Her cramps were so much better, and she actually felt like she could be productive on her period. And then after 12 weeks, she felt like she could handle stress a lot better, which was huge for her because she had a very stressful job. She was no longer afraid to eat certain foods or felt overwhelmed with food. She went to a concert on day 1 of her cycle without even thinking about it. And again, that stress piece for her was huge because she was able to be more resilient. And overall, she could just really feel that her body was on her team now and starting to heal. And so the reason I wanted you guys to see this is because this was 3 months of nourishing, not eliminating foods, not going on a restrictive diet, not trying to be stricter with food, but really just starting to increase that metabolism and getting her body to feel safe again, right? Because when your body feels safe, then it can start to prioritize things like your hormones. And that's what was happening. So now let's talk about the most important areas that we want to address when it comes to our hormones. Okay. So the first thing, which is what I've been talking about for the past 30 minutes, is overall energy. So supporting your metabolism, again, is number 1 because that is that root cause there. And then the second thing we're going to dive into is balancing your blood sugar. So when your blood sugar is stable, that creates safety in the body. And we do that by making sure we are eating consistent meals throughout the day and pairing a protein, carb, and fat in every meal and snack that we have to keep blood sugar stable. And the last part are focusing on specific minerals and nutrients that help kick off reactions in the body. So specific minerals and nutrients are essential for hormone balance, and we're going to talk about what some of those are too, so you guys can start implementing them. So the first one is overall energy intake. So there are a couple ways that you can figure out if you're eating enough. Okay. So the first one is to just tune into your body, right? And so, like, everyone's going to be a little bit different with this, depending on where your hunger cues are at and if you get normal hunger cues. But signs that you could be under eating are low energy. If you feel like you wake up and you're really tired, or you get energy crashes throughout the day, you feel like you can't keep your eyes open and you need to take a nap throughout the day, or you feel like you're tired throughout the day and wired at night. That is definitely a sign that you are not getting enough fuel throughout the day, and then your body's starting to run more so on cortisol at nighttime. So poor appetite, not getting those hunger cues, like if you're not hungry first thing in the morning, feeling cold frequently, difficulty falling or staying asleep. If you constantly wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., that is a sign that your body is running out of fuel and you're getting that blood sugar crash. Other signs that you're under eating are digestion issues. So constipation, bloating, again, the theme of slowing down. So your body is starting to slow down its energy and pull it away from digestion. And then hair loss, if your hair is starting to fall out, again, your body doesn't have enough energy to grow things like your hair and your nails. And then anxiety. So when we always feel really, really anxious and overwhelmed, that means that we don't handle stress very well, and we don't have the resilience to actually calm us down. We don't have the energy to calm us down. So we're constantly running on cortisol levels, and higher levels of cortisol are going to give us more of that anxiety and anxious and overwhelmed feeling. So first, you can just tune in. Do you experience any of those symptoms? If so, you are probably under eating. Second thing you can do is tracking. So this is actually writing down. I like using the app Chronometer, and really just getting curious with what you're actually doing. So this is not meant to be restrictive or get you to eat less. This is actually to make sure that you are eating enough. Because if you've never written down your food before, then it's going to be really hard to know if you're actually eating enough. And a lot of times we think we're eating enough, and then we write it down and we're like, oh, that is usually where the aha moment comes. So if it feels good to you and you feel like you can do it in a neutral way, write down your food for 4 to 5 days and see where your body is currently at with how much energy you are currently giving it. So we want to make sure that overall energy is supported. So what we want to do after we figure out our overall energy intake, then we want to calculate our BMR plus our activity level. And your BMR is basically how much energy your body needs just to keep you alive. So not if you were walking around, working all day, not if you were even sitting at home watching Netflix, not if you're reading a book, no like energy output, just if you were laying in bed all day, just keeping you alive. So that's what your BMR is. So we want to know how much energy your body needs just to keep you alive, and then adding in that activity level, okay? And so I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. And so that total, that BMR plus activity, is called your total daily energy expenditure, your TDEE. And so if you are eating below your TDEE, then you want to start to slowly increase that energy intake. So you want to slowly start to eat a little bit more so that you can start to increase that metabolism. And I cannot stress this enough, to go slow with this, okay? If your body has not been getting enough energy for a long time, it's going to need some time to recognize that it's getting more fuel, okay? So, and then also keep in mind, like I said before, that we do utilize an extra 200 calories in our luteal phase to support progesterone levels. So sometimes adding in more fuel, especially in your luteal phase, can make your PMS symptoms and your periods so much better, just having a little extra energy there. So let's talk a little bit more about your TDEE and what that really means. So we talked about this. So your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, is just these functions here. So just these functions that your body needs energy to just keep you alive. So things like breathing, your heartbeat, pumping blood through your system, making stomach acid, brain power, cell repair, those kinds of things that your body is going to do. And then we also have the activity on top of that. So walking, if you are doing any type of working out, and then just like basic functions. So like cleaning, walking to your car, walking into work, any of those types of other types of movement. So that's going to equal, both of those together are going to equal your total daily energy expenditure. So this is how you calculate that. You're going to go to this website here, bmrcalculator.org, and it's just a very general calculator. You can use you can just Google BMR calculator plus activity level, but I like this one because it does include the activity level, and it is relatively accurate. This is not 100%, but it does give you a rough idea of how much energy your body needs. And then you can as you start to bridge the gap between what you're currently doing and what your BMR plus your activity level is, what those numbers look like, you can figure out what the real destination is. And the real destination will basically be when your symptoms start to go away and you feel really good and you have energy to last all day long without needing coffee or a nap. And then your digestion is good. You don't want to rip someone's head off right before your period. You're not experiencing anxiety or feeling overwhelmed or anxious all the time. Your hair's not falling out. You're not getting acne. All of these, and then when it comes to your period, you're not getting those painful periods. So that is going to be a sign that your body is actually getting enough fuel. When you stop seeing that communication from your body that it's still undernourished. Okay, so that's the overall energy piece. That's step one. Okay, obviously the energy we give ourselves does also matter. And so with this example, um, so basically what you would do is you would just fill this out, and then this was kind of like the results of what happened. So BMR is basically, again, just how much your body needs just to keep you alive. And then what you would do would be kind of look at where your activity level lies, and just kind of estimate this. It's okay if it's not 100%. Again, you're going to figure out what that like perfect number truly is for you, based off of how you feel, and a couple other things that I'm also going to go over as well. So what you're going to do next from here is log your current energy intake using either an app called I Like Chronometer. It works really well. They have both a paid version and a free version. And then if you are under eating, you want to slowly start to bridge that gap by adding in a little bit more energy, about 100 calories a week or so. Starting with protein. Most people undereat protein. And so first making sure that you are getting enough protein. Everyone is going to be different, so I can't give you specific amounts, but I would first start with making sure you are getting enough protein in every single meal. And doing this very, very slowly. Okay, so going slow. Don't just take a 180 and add in a bunch of energy, because your body needs to figure out what to do with that energy. And if you just take a 180, then it's going to start to store some of that energy because it won't know how to use it yet. You have to go through that training process of giving it just a little bit more energy, then it can utilize it, and then you keep kind of giving it a little bit more week by week until you get to where you feel really good. And it doesn't have to be every single week. It can be every week, every 2 weeks, based on what feels good to you. And as your hunger starts to come back, then you'll know what that destination truly is. Okay. And then other thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you are balancing your meals. And this is the second part that you're going to want to do is blood sugar balance. So making sure that you are pairing a protein, carb, and fat in every single meal to keep your blood sugar stable. So a little bit breaking down the different macronutrients is they're all important, but we want to make sure that they are balanced. So that is going to be the key. So first off, protein. Protein is basically what we use to make digestive enzymes. And so protein helps support our thyroid and supports our liver, and protein helps balance our blood sugar. Okay, carbs are also super essential. They help carbs convert to glucose in the body, and that's what helps convert T4 into T3. That's our thyroid hormone. And so without carbs, it's going to lead to a slower thyroid, which is going to lead to a slower metabolism. So we need enough carbs to support our thyroid, which supports our metabolism, and then also to keep blood sugar stable and support progesterone levels. So carbs are very important. We'll talk about the types of carbs also, so you guys have all of that. But basically, protein plus carbs plus a little bit of fat together is going to keep your blood sugar stable. And then fat is actually what our hormones are made from. They're made from cholesterol, which is fat. And so fat is also very essential. So it's not about cutting things out and doing like avoiding carbs, avoiding fats, under eating protein. It's about making sure you have a balance of all three. And what that looks like is going to be individualized depending on what you're currently doing. But I would just start with making sure you have a protein, carb, and the fat usually does come with the protein, so you don't always need to add it in. But making sure you have all three in all your meals and snacks is going to make sure your body has that consistent fuel to utilize as energy. Okay, we're almost done, I promise, guys. So next, let's go into, these are the different types of foods that you can add in. We'll just go over this really quick. Different types of proteins, fats, and carbs. You guys will get this replay so you can dive into this. But again, pairing the three together is going to keep your blood sugar stable. Oh, hold on. Okay, and then the last thing is minerals. So minerals that we want to make sure we have are, all minerals are really important, but we want to do them in a specific order. We want to start with the ones that our body burns through the most during times of stress. So that's going to be sodium, potassium, and vitamin C. And those are the minerals that are going to help support your adrenal function, and that is going to lower cortisol levels. And so when we have lower levels of cortisol, that's when your body is running off of the fuel that you are giving it, and it's not in that like high stress state all the time. So this is why I love doing adrenal cocktails. They're super, super good for having mid-afternoon or mid-morning, whenever you feel like that energy crash normally is. I have a couple clients who literally don't need to drink coffee anymore because they just replace their coffee with an adrenal cocktail, and it helps give them energy throughout the day. So these are the minerals that I would include first to help support your hormones. Okay, so we went through the three things to start to restore your metabolism. Now, how do you know if your metabolism is actually, if it's actually working? Like, are these things working that I'm doing? This is how you're going to check in. So you're going to check in on your body temperature and your pulse. The idea is that your metabolism regulates, well, your thyroid, which regulates your metabolism, also regulates your body temperature. So when your body temperature is a healthy between like 97.2 and 97.5 in the first half of your cycle, so days 1 to about 14, that is going to show that your body is getting enough energy to regulate that temperature. And this is your first waking temp. So your temperature before you even get out of bed, which would be technically like your lowest possible temp throughout the day. So you want to take that temperature first thing in the morning before you get out of bed and look at where it sits in these ranges. In your luteal phase, so after you ovulate, your body is going to be producing progesterone, and progesterone again is very metabolic, so it speeds up your metabolism a little bit, which means that that's going to increase your overall body temperature. So you're going to have a little bit higher temperature in your luteal phase if you are producing enough progesterone. So you want to look at your range in temps. Again, this is your morning temp. So when you first wake up, before you get out of bed, just put a thermometer next to your nightstand, take your temperature real quick, write it down, and then check and see where it's at. And then also your pulse. So your resting pulse, same thing, before you get out of bed, should be between 75 and 90 beats per minute. And so this will tell you how your body is utilizing that energy. And so what you want to do is track this over time to see where the trends are at, to see how your body is utilizing energy. Okay? So that's how you can see if what you're doing is actually working or if you need to change it up a little bit. Because again, when we start to nourish, this is not a diet. This is not something that you're just going to do for 30 days and then never think about again, right? We're really getting down to the root cause of what has been struggling for a long time. And you're going to start to, like, what happens on the inside is going to start to heal before we notice changes on the outside. So temperature and pulse is a really good way of just kind of getting pretty instant feedback as to how your body is responding to the amount of energy you're giving it. If your temps aren't going up, you probably need more fuel in the source of carbohydrates, specifically because carbs are that energy. They are that backbone. Okay. So that is it. I know that was a lot. Take a deep breath. We are going to recap really quick. So the root cause of hormonal imbalances is that sluggish metabolism. If we can fix that metabolism and get your body back to burning energy efficiently, it is going to have the resources to prioritize your hormones. Okay, so that is step one. We need that metabolic rate up as the foundational backbone of balanced hormones. Okay, so then we need to make sure that we are nourishing our body for optimal hormones. So eating enough balancing our blood sugar, and making sure we are consistently getting enough fuel throughout the day to support our hormones. And then lastly, checking in on your metabolism with your temperature and pulse. So making sure that your temperature is between that 97.2 to 98.6 range throughout the month. Okay. So those are the tools that you guys can start implementing to help balance your hormones, restore your metabolism, and get to that root cause of why your body is struggling in the first place. Okay. So what now? If you guys feel like you need more support with this, I created a 6-week group coaching program. And this is designed to dive deeper with you, take the guesswork out, and really learn how to nourish and support your hormones based off of what's going on with you throughout the month. So that is why I created this program and put it together to take the guesswork out. There's no need to rely on restrictive diets or just feel like you have to cut out gluten and dairy and sugar for the rest of your life. If you are relying on a diet and that's what feels good, then there is a deeper problem going on here. So we're going to dive deeper into the process of healing your metabolism and making sure you are getting the specific nutrients and specific minerals that really help nourish your body. And again, the goal of this is to give you the help and the resources you need so you're not struggling on your own. So if you feel like you need more help with this and you really want to feel confident that what you're doing is working and you're supporting your body and you're doing all of the things that you should be to get to the place where you do have easy, regular cycles every month and you're not struggling with PMS symptoms or painful periods or slow digestion, low energy, all of those things that we talked about that are your body trying to communicate that it does need something, but really tuning in and knowing what to do when those symptoms come up and not just kind of Googling your symptoms or scrolling on Instagram or TikTok looking for the answer and taking out that trial and error phase, but just getting real time what's going on with your hormones and having that support is huge and so crucial on this journey. So that's what it's going to be. So it's going to be 6 weeks of a interactive small group coaching. And then we're going to have a group chat where you guys can ask questions and get help in between calls. And basically, this is designed to give you the step-by-step proven nourishment foundations that I used to heal my hormones, what I use with all my one-on-one clients. This is designed to just give you the roadmap so you can use it for the rest of your life. And then also make sure that you know and you feel confident what to do in terms of recipes, meal ideas, what to eat throughout the day. You have that solid so that food is no longer consuming you and you know exactly what feels good and how to nourish your body. So this is what life looks like. And I just want you guys to take a minute and imagine what your life would look like if you weren't struggling with your hormones anymore. So imagine you walk up to the fridge and you know exactly what to eat. You're not staring at the fridge and just wondering, what should I eat? What's going to hurt my stomach? What's actually going to fuel my body? What's actually going to feel good? You're no longer afraid of food and you don't feel overwhelmed and bloated all the time after every meal. You're not like trying to figure out what the culprit is because food feels good and you're confident that you can eat something without it making you feel bloated afterwards. You have stable energy throughout the day and you don't feel like you need a coffee at 2:00. You no longer feel obligated to choose the low calorie option like the salad and you can get the burger that you want without feeling guilt or shame and you just move on with it because you actually know that that is the nourishing option. You no longer dread your cycles anymore and you feel confident that your nutrition is working for you and you are actually setting the foundations that will serve you for the rest of your life. So this is what life looks like when you actually start to get to that root cause and you have that nourishing nutrition foundation set. So for the next 72 hours because you guys joined the masterclass. This offer is only for the masterclass. It's going to be $100 off plus a one-on-one 30-minute session with me, which again, this is only for people who join the masterclass. You're going to get that discount and that bonus offer. So I will be emailing out the replay of this so you guys have it to go back and listen to. And you will also get that offer with it to go ahead and sign up within the next 72 hours. So I hope that this was helpful today. I hope you guys got something out of this. I hope it was helpful. If there's any questions, you guys can go ahead and hop on now. If you guys have any questions before we finish. And